What would you do if the man who once paid you to disappear suddenly stopped you in the middle of a storm and asked, "Is that my child?" Would you run again or finally demand the truth? It was supposed to be just another cold, rainy night on Michigan Avenue. But when Harper Lane, drenched and desperate, clutched her baby and tried to vanish into the downpour, the last person she expected to stop her was Nathan Caldwell, the billionaire heir who had shattered her heart 10 months earlier with a single envelope and a brutal goodbye. Now face to face in the rain, he looked at the child in her arms and asked a question that changed everything. Behind them, a camera flashed. By morning, their picture would explode across every media outlet in the country, sparking a scandal that would shake boardrooms, expose long-buried betrayals, and force Harper to choose between survival and the father of her child. But the real twist, that was only the beginning. Stay with us, because this story isn't about wealth or revenge. It's about truth, redemption, and how one mother's courage lit the spark that changed an empire forever. Harper Lane's sneakers slapped the rain-drenched pavement of Michigan Avenue, every stride a plea against the night. The storm had turned Chicago's skyline into a jagged shadow show. Each bolt of lightning froze the drenched world for half a heartbeat before plunging it back into darkness. Harper clutched her daughter Emery to her chest, shielding the tiny body with her own, as if willpower alone could keep the cold away. She had $7 left in her pocket, one soaked diaper in her backpack, and absolutely nowhere to go. Headlights burst through the veil of rain. A silver Tesla drifted to a stop a breath in front of her, its silent motor humming like a held secret. The driver's door flew open, and Nathan Caldwell, heir to Caldwell Development Group, darling of the financial press, stepped into the downpour. Even soaked to the bone, he carried the effortless poise of someone born to command rooms lined with marble and mahogany. His gaze locked on the bundle in Harper's arms. "Is that child mine?" The words were neither gentle nor accusatory. They were a detonator. Harper's heartbeat pounded in her temples, mixing with the drumroll of rain on steel. 10 months earlier, she and Nathan had been inseparable. Late-night architectural debates, shared takeout on the riverfront, promises made in whispers when the rest of Chicago slept. Then a manila envelope slid under her apartment door, $50,000, and a typed note bearing Nathan's signature, telling her to disappear. In that single moment, her Cinderella interlude shattered into shards, sharp enough to slice through hope itself. Harper fought to keep her voice steady. "You know exactly who she is, Nathan. You paid for the proof." Nathan's brow furrowed, confusion warring with something raw. "I never." His protest was drowned by thunder yet. Harper read the denial on his lips. Lies, she thought, just another layer of satin wrapping on a rotten gift. A horn blared as a taxi skidded by, drenching them in a filthy wave. Emery whimpered. Reflexively, Harper swayed exhaustion, rocking her like a tree bending to the storm. She'd worked double shifts at a downtown drafting firm until her belly showed, then lost the job the moment maternity paperwork touched HR's desk. Her roommate had vanished last week, owing 2 months' rent. Today, the landlord tossed her into the street. The weight of every sleepless night pressed on her spine until her knees gave. Darkness tunneled her vision. Nathan lunged, catching both mother and child before they hit the concrete. Rain hammered his shoulders, but he cradled Emery with surprising tenderness, the way a priest might lift a chalice. Harper wanted to claw free to spit every insult she'd rehearsed through tears at 3 a.m., but the world tilted and blackness surged. When her sight returned, she was inside the Tesla seat heaters, blazing against her soaked jeans. Nathan tucked a blanket from the back seat around Emery's tiny form. "Take us home," he ordered, the dashboard voice low and urgent. The car merged into traffic as if guided by instinct. Home? Harper nearly laughed. She had no home, certainly none that belonged to him. "River North isn't my destination," she croaked, throat raw. "It is tonight," Nathan replied, "unless you'd rather stay out here and argue with pneumonia." His attempt at lightness fell flat. His hands trembled on the steering yoke. Downtown neon flickered through rain-smeared glass. Harper's mind raced. If she let him usher them to his penthouse, would she ever find the strength to leave? Could she afford pride when Emery's lips were turning blue? Lightning flashed, illuminating Nathan's face. Water traced the hard lines of his jaw, but his eyes were soft, haunted even. Could sincerity live behind that gaze, or was it another mask? The Tesla turned onto the bridge spanning the Chicago River. A second flash lit the sky, and a third unnatural burst followed the strobe of a paparazzi camera from the sidewalk. Harper glimpsed a photographer braced under an umbrella lens, trained on the Tesla like a rifle. One click, two, three. By dawn, the shots would adorn 100 gossip sites, Golden Boy developer, cradling mystery baby rain, glistening like cathedral light around them. Harper's stomach clenched. Scandal could either save or scorch her, but right now it felt like a fuse lit at both ends. Minutes later, they glided beneath the porte cochere of Nathan's glass and steel tower. A doorman hurried forward with umbrellas. Nathan waved him off and carried Harper through the lobby himself, water spiraling from his coat onto polished marble. Elevators whispered open. 47 floors up the penthouse doors parted to a panorama of city lights blurred by rain. Inside, warmth wrapped Harper like a sigh. Amber lamplight leather sofas, walls lined with modern art she once studied in textbooks she couldn't afford. It all felt foreign, dazzling, dangerous. Nathan set Emery in Harper's arms again, then fetched towels and a plush baby blanket. He knelt, not caring that water pooled beneath him. "Harper, I swear to you I never wrote that letter. I never sent money to make you disappear." His voice cracked on the last word. Anger flared hotter than any space heater. "The envelope had your name, Nathan, your stationery, your signature." "I know my own stationery," he muttered half to himself, "but I also know my own heart, and it never wanted you gone." Harper pressed back a surge of hope. Hope was dangerous. It asked you to lower your shield. She tightened her grip on Emery instead. "Why should I believe anything you say?" Nathan rose slowly. "Because tomorrow we'll run a paternity test supervised by whomever you trust. Because I'll open every phone record, bank statement, email. We'll trace that bribe to its source. And because his throat worked, I can't stand another day wondering where you are, if you're safe, if my daughter is warm." The word daughter hung between them, trembling in the hush. Emery stirred little fingers, curling around Harper's damp collar. Outside, thunder rolled eastward, loosening its grip on the city. Inside, a quieter storm raged, old betrayal, new uncertainty, and the faintest flicker of something fragile but alive. Harper's exhaustion crashed over her again. She sank onto the nearest sofa. Nathan vanished down a hallway and returned with an oversized hoodie, sweatpants, and a mug of cocoa that steamed like offered forgiveness. She hesitated, then wrapped the hoodie around Emery, first accepting warmth for her child, even if she wouldn't yet accept it for herself. Nathan settled on the coffee table opposite her, knees almost touching hers. "Harper, who delivered that envelope? Was there a courier name?" She searched memory's rubble a knock at dusk. Footsteps retreating. No face. "I never saw anyone." But the note was typed, no smudges, perfect kerning. Whoever drafted it had access to expensive equipment. Nathan's stare hardened, calculating. Perhaps he was assembling a suspect list, already board members, rivals, meddling family. Harper knew his mother loathed outsiders. Victoria Caldwell once scanned Harper's thrift store blazer like it was a stain on porcelain. But would a matriarch stoop to forge letters and hush money? Harper's eyelids drooped. She fought them. Pride insisted she remain vigilant, but motherhood begged rest. Nathan rose, retrieving a bassinet from a guest room, immaculate, unused. He laid Emery gently inside, then offered Harper his hand. After all the cruelty she'd endured, the gesture felt impossibly gentle. She didn't take it, but she didn't slap it away. He walked her to the guest suite door, stopping short. "The room is yours. Lock it if you want. I'll be in the living area. Alarm code is 0427 if you need to leave." He hesitated, drenched hair plastered to his forehead. "Thank you for trusting me this far." Trust not yet. But Harper did step inside the suite. She laid Emery in the crib and whispered, a lullaby voice shaking. Thunder faded to a distant murmur. For the first time in weeks, warmth seeped into Harper's bones. And for the first time since that envelope, she let hope flicker small as a pilot light stubborn against the dark. She had no idea the fiercest storm had only just begun. I'm sorry to cut the story here sometimes. Even a night full of lightning needs a pause before dawn. Do you think Nathan's confession is genuine, or is there another layer of deception waiting to surface? What choice would you make if you were Harper? Stay the night in luxury or walk back into the rain with your child? If you're feeling the tension, please tap that heart and hit, like so we know you're with us for the next chapter. Dawn bled through the penthouse windows like a promise Nathan wasn't sure he deserved. The city below sparkled with post-storm reflections. But the moment Harper scrolled her cracked phone, a fresh downpour hit this time of headlines. Every gossip site carried the same grainy shot: Nathan Caldwell striding through the rain with a mystery baby, his former flame limp in his arms. Tags screamed billionaire love child, secret affair, hostile takeover of the tabloids. Harper's pulse spiked. Your board will crucify you. Nathan glanced at the screen and inhaled slowly, as if tasting the coming battle. They've sharpened their knives before. Let's give them something harder to carve. Before Harper could decipher the remark, the doorbell chimed. It was barely 7 a.m. Victoria Caldwell swept in trench coat, pristine, a lawyer at her elbow, and a portable DNA kit in hand. We'll let science settle this circus, she declared, ignoring Harper entirely. Nathan's jaw clenched, but he signed the consent forms and bared his arm. Harper followed, steeling herself as cold swabs brushed Emery's tiny heel. The nurse labeled each vial mother alleged father child and promised results by late afternoon. When the elevator doors closed behind Victoria, silence fell like snow. Harper wrapped Emery in a fleece blanket and paced, counting heartbeats, waiting for the next collision. It arrived sooner than expected. Nathan's phone buzzed with an emergency alert from Caldwell Development Group. The board had scheduled a noon conference to address reputational damage and leadership stability. Nathan thumbed the screen off. They'll push for my suspension. You can't fight them and care for Emery at the same time, Harper said, surprising herself with the urgency in her voice. I'm not leaving her, he replied, equally fierce. As if summoned by tension, a whimper rose from the bassinet. Emery's cheeks burned. Her breaths came quick and shallow. Harper felt the telltale heat before the thermometer confirmed a blazing fever. Within minutes, Nathan had her snug in a car seat. By the time they hit Lakeshore Drive, Emery's cries dwindled into frightening lethargy. Chicago Children's Hospital flooded them with fluorescent light and forms to sign. A triage nurse whisked Emery behind curtains, leaving Harper clutching an identification sticker and a sinking gut. Nathan hovered, shoulders squared like a citadel, against panic, yet his eyes betrayed him, haunted, furious at fate. An hour crawled by. Finally, Dr. Lowell, pediatric specialist, stepped out, brow furrowed. Your daughter is stable for now, but her labs raised a red flag. She carries a rare genetic mutation, SCX21. Left untreated, it compromises the immune system. Harper swallowed sand. There's a treatment, an experimental gene therapy in phase 2 trials. The doctor's gaze flicked to Nathan. Funded by Caldwell Development Group. Slots are scarce and outrageously expensive. Harper's knees threatened to buckle. Nathan caught her elbow. Money is not the issue, he said, though both knew the bigger price, the board's rage, if he diverted millions to a trial the press already labeled social vanity spending. Emery slept on tiny monitors, chest rising against adhesive wires. Harper pressed her forehead to the glass of the observation window, while Nathan stepped outside to take a call from the board chair. His voice, usually velvet over steel, now grated with restrained fury. I will attend virtually from the hospital, he said. And no, we're not issuing any press release that undermines Harper or my child. He returned 10 minutes later, only to find Trevor Bennett waiting in the corridor, raincoat dripping. Nathan blinked. Trevor, I left you 50 messages. Trevor's eyes were red-rimmed, but he didn't bother with greetings. Nathan, there's something you need to hear before that board meeting. He glanced at Harper, then back at Nathan. I'm the one who delivered the envelope. Harper felt the hallway tilt. Nathan's hand tightened around the coffee he hadn't touched. Explain, he said, voice low as a storm cloud. Trevor's confession spilled in rushed fragments, how Victoria had approached him with alarms about Nathan's distraction, how she feared the Harrington merger would evaporate. She'd offered a blank check for any solution. Trevor, harboring a secret love for Nathan since prep school, had typed the letter himself, convinced he was protecting Nathan from ruin, and perhaps from a heart Trevor couldn't compete with. You forged my signature, Nathan whispered, each syllable scorching. I thought I was saving you, Trevor pleaded, but every day since I've drowned in regret. Harper wanted to scream, cry, maybe laugh at the cruelty of it all. Instead, she whispered, you stole 10 months of a father's life. Alarms sounded overhead, code blue 2 corridors away. The din jangled through Harper's nerves. Trevor flinched but continued. Victoria doesn't know I'm confessing. She warned the board you'd divert resources for a street baby and jeopardize shareholder value. They'll vote this afternoon to strip you of authority. Nathan stared at the floor jaw, shifting like tectonic plates. Then he looked up, all hesitation burned away. Harper, will you trust me with one more gamble? She met his gaze. The betrayal, the headlines, the board's knives, none of it mattered beside the rhythmic bleep of Emery's heart monitor. What's your plan? Fight for our daughter in front of the very people who think profit is the only pulse worth counting. You'll need evidence, Trevor stammered. I have it, Nathan said, gesturing to the pediatric wing. Every parent in this ward is evidence. He pivoted back to Harper. But if I lose the company, I lose leverage to pay for the therapy. We may have to sell everything. Harper remembered the homeless night before. Things can be replaced, she said. Lives can't. At 11:56 a.m., Nathan rolled a hospital card into Emery's room, angled the camera toward the sleeping child, and opened the secure video link. 30 faces flickered on screen. Board members, lawyers, investors. Victoria Caldwell's square appeared, last eyes unblinking, voice crisp. Nathan, the floor is yours. We expect an explanation. Nathan steadied himself beside the crib. Behind the monitor, Harper held Emery's tiny hand. Trevor, trembling, hovered in the doorway, ready to atone. And for one breathless second, the entire empire balanced on a single question. Would they choose the heartbeat of a little girl or the heartbeat of the market? I'm sorry to pause our story at this pivotal moment, but do you believe a corporation can have a conscience or will profit always win the vote? Should Harper forgive Trevor after what he's revealed, or is some betrayal beyond redemption? If this battle for one child's future moved you, please tap the heart and hit like so we know you'll be here for the finale. The board's faces hovered on the screen like cold stars, each one reflecting a bottom-line universe. Nathan steadied the camera on Emery's crib, the soft hiss of the ventilator filling the silence. Before you vote, he began, I want you to meet the real return on investment. He angled the lens so Emery's tiny fingers clutched the pulse ox cable like a lifeline. My daughter carries a mutation called SCX21. The therapy that can save her is the same program Caldwell Development Group launched last year and has since threatened to cut because the profit horizon looks cloudy. Today, your decision isn't just about me, it's about whether this company will bankrupt its own soul to protect a quarter point on the stock ticker. Victoria Caldwell folded her arms. You're exploiting sentiment. I'm reminding you why we build, Nathan answered. Skyscrapers or science. It was never bricks or patents alone that made this firm great, it was purpose. Vote me out if you must, but you'll also walk away from every family praying for that therapy. And the moment you do, I will liquidate my personal shares to fund the trial myself. Headlines tomorrow will read exactly who killed hope. A murmur rippled through the panel, fear, calculation, an ember of conscience. Nathan gestured to the side. Trevor stepped into frame, face blotched with shame. I forged the letter that tore Harper from Nathan, he confessed. I did it out of misplaced loyalty and fear. The board can destroy me for admitting this, but you should know Mrs. Caldwell authorized the plan. Nathan was never the villain. Shock fractured the digital gallery. A senior director unmuted, voice rough. Motion to suspend the leadership vote and investigate. Hands raised on screen, first hesitant, then decisive. The tally tipped. Victoria's expression cracked a fine fissure of grudging respect. Board action deferred, the chair declared. Nathan, you retain authority pending review. Relief swelled, but the battle was only half won. Harper slipped into the shot, her voice calm, but steel-lined. The therapy still needs full funding. Emery can't wait for committees. Nathan nodded. Then we moved the budget tonight. He killed the call before objections could revive, turned to Harper, and wrapped her in an exhausted embrace. Behind them, Emery's monitor pinged steady as rain on glass, hope measured in hertz. 5 months later, Chicago woke to spring and steel cranes arcing above Westbrook Commons. The slum had become a construction ballet, solar roofs rising beside playgrounds 3D, printed walls slotting into place like Lego of the future. Harper's design team, backed by a surge of new investors who believed conscience could scale, worked round the clock. Trevor, stripped of title but not opportunity, coordinated volunteer architects keen to earn redemption, one blueprint at a time. The final ribbon cutting of Hope Springs Center drew a crowd so large traffic lights blinked bewildered. Street vendors sold pretzel knots shaped like little houses. Children in neon hard hats paraded with chalk signs that read, "My home, my future." Harper, visibly pregnant with their second child, led the tour through airy classrooms and a health clinic wired for telemedicine. Reporters scribbled furiously when Nathan announced the gene therapy wing on the third floor would bear Emery's name. Yet behind the applause, another story brewed. Conrad Blair, an ousted shareholder who'd lost millions when Nathan canceled luxury condos, skulked among the guests. He'd bribed a temp worker to weaken a decorative beam suspended over the courtyard, aiming to set headlines ablaze with Caldwell's failure. He did not count on Trevor. Trevor spotted a hairline crack glinting above the crowd. Instinct screamed. He sprinted, shoving people clear just as the beam buckled. It crashed inches from Emery's stroller, shattering tile, spraying dust. Chaos surged the crowd. Panicked. Cameras, word sirens wailed. Nathan hauled Harper and Emery to safety, but Trevor lay pinned by debris blood, bright against concrete. Minutes later, paramedics stabilized Trevor. His first breath carried a laugh. "Tell the board," he wheezed, "that was the riskiest brand protection stunt ever." Police footage and Conrad's frantic getaway sealed the sabotage story before sunset. Overnight, public sympathy flooded Caldwell Group. Share prices leapt. More importantly, communities across the Midwest applied to replicate Westbrook Commons. Profit had aligned at last with purpose. A month passed. Emery, now giggling and hearty after her third infusion, toddled across the lawn of Lincoln Park's Caldwell family house, chasing soap bubbles Harper blew from the porch. Victoria arrived unannounced, a silk scarf hiding silver roots. She approached Harper, eyes soft. "I came to apologize without lawyers," she said. "Trevor's confession exposed my fear. I was wrong. All of this, shows me what real legacy looks like." Harper searched the older woman's face, saw not manipulation, but a mother's cracked facade. She offered a gentle nod. Victoria exhaled as if released from a years-long breath and bent to let Emery press a bubble wand into her hand. Dusk painted the lake gold when Nathan called everyone to the newly built garden arbor. He held a small wooden box. Inside lay 2 rings, one for Harper, a brushed gold band etched with the Westbrook floor plan lines, one smaller for Emery to wear someday when she understood commitment. "I promised the board numbers," Nathan said, voice thick with emotion, "but you both of you taught me the arithmetic of the heart. One promise plus one purpose can equal 1,000 changed lives." He knelt. "Harper Lane, will you marry me not to finish a fairy tale, but to keep writing blueprints for impossible dreams?" Tears blurred the strings of garden lights. Harper laughed through them. "Only if you keep building with me." Emery squealed approval, clapping tiny hands. Even Victoria joined the applause, tentative but real. Later, Nathan tucked Emery into bed, dimmed the star projector, and whispered a prayer of gratitude. One father's IPO of the soul, measured not in dollars but in heartbeats. Outside, cranes continued to dot the skyline, but their silhouettes told a new story. Cities could rise beautiful and just grafting compassion onto steel. And somewhere in the heart of Chicago, a once-torn family flourished, proof that when people decide to invest in one another, dividends echo for generations. Thank you for staying with us through every storm and triumph. Do you think Trevor's sacrifice redeemed his betrayal, or should redemption demand more than bravery in a single moment? If you could redesign one part of your city for the greater good, what would it be and why? Tell us how this story sat with you. Comment. Note 3 if it hit home, Note 1 if you're still craving more, and Note 2 if it felt just okay. Which country are you watching from tonight? Don't forget to tap that heart and share the video so more hearts can be warmed by a little rain turned golden.